What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel and to another Overwatch League news video. This morning I have a quick one for you as the Hangzhou Spark have officially parted ways with GodsB. This has kind of been in the rumor mill for about a week or so. We were kind of just waiting on the Spark to go ahead and make some sort of announcement about it. Now that everything is official, we can finally sit down and talk about this. So, first off, I wanted to say how sad this is, not necessarily because the Spark desperately needed GodsB, but more so because of what he has done for this team these last couple of years. For those of you who maybe only started watching the league this year, or maybe during Season 3, GodsB has been around since the beginning in Season 2 when the Spark became a franchise, and he quickly became a fan favorite while consistently being a very reliable option for them. During the GOATS era, he was a very solid Zarya player, arguably like top 5 in the league overall. Him and Gushue made for a really nice 1-2 punch back then. Then he continued his prowess when 222 came out on a hero like Reaper. He was really good during that period of time, and he helped the Spark make a good push in the playoffs. Then last year, he had another pretty decent showing. Maybe not as effective or dominant as Season 2, but still a very solid player overall. I think he kind of just has a very different way of being effective compared to other hitscan players. Instead of being super flashy and going for all the crazy final blows, I think he's more of just a really good counter DPS who can put a lot of pressure on the enemy. But still, you could tell that he was missing some of that explosiveness that really put him on the map during Season 2, and I think that has since then carried over into this year, which is part of the reason why Shy ended up getting the starting nod over him. He's just a stronger option for the team overall, and as a result, GodsB decided, hey, I think it's time to leave the Spark. They don't need me, but I'm still a very valuable player. And you'd have to imagine that the Spark respected these wishes, hence why they decided to mutually part ways. GodsB probably knew better than anybody else that if he decided to stay on the Spark, he would be on the bench for most likely the remainder of the season because Shy has just been so darn good. So why settle, you know? Why sit on the bench when you are very talented and there are some teams that might be interested in your services? Yeah, maybe the Spark could have held on to him because maybe they don't want him to potentially go to a different APAC team and then rain terror on them and make them regret their decision. But at the end of the day, they respect GodsB. It goes to show that they really like him a lot and that they want to do what's best for him because they care about him and they're just, you know, so thankful for all of his contributions over the last few years. They know that GodsB can still play, so might as well let him go into free agency and see what happens because he deserves it. So yeah, effective immediately, GodsB is a free agent looking for new opportunities. This is just a really sad moment though because it's hard to imagine GodsB in any other uniform besides the color pink. I'm sure both Spark fans and non-Spark fans alike will agree with me when I say that there were some unforgettable moments of this guy on the Spark during his career, you know? In Season 2 in particular, I have a lot of fond memories of this guy on that Reaper and Zarya again. He really did help boost this team over the top and help them have such a successful first year in the league. He was without a doubt one of the better rookies of Season 2. He just couldn't build upon it. Him and the Spark both couldn't build upon it for that matter. They just couldn't find the same level of results. The Spark are trying to find those results now through a different method because they realized maybe GodsB isn't it. Shy's just probably the better option moving forward. He has so much potential. He's already playing at like a superstar level practically only through like 8 games in his career. Shy is just the way forward. He is the future, unfortunately, for somebody like GodsB. So yeah, this is goodbye for GodsB on the Hangzhou Spark, but it is not goodbye period. His journey does not end here because again, he still does have the motivation to play. He just needs to find a new home. That segues me into the second half of this video. Where could GodsB realistically sign? Where would be a good fit for him? And who would even be interested in him? So when the news of this first started floating around in the rumor mill, I immediately thought of the Charge. It's a good fit for GodsB and it helps out the Charge at the same time. Right now, they're kind of struggling with their hit scan situation as they're forcing Eileen onto that role, and it hasn't really worked out that well, mostly because Eileen is more of a projectile and flex guy. That's not really his main role, so of course he's not going to be that great at it. Lee, he hasn't been that great so far, so he's been on the bench. It would make a lot of sense to get a new hit scan, but recently a rumor came out that the Charge are actually interested in a different hit scan player. Supposedly, they're trying to pursue Merit, the former hit scan DPS player out of Runaway. He's young, he has potential, he looks pretty promising in my opinion, so GodsB might be out of luck with the Charge. Unless the Charge wanted 2 reliable hit scans, in that case they could maybe release Lee or demote him to their academy team, but I highly doubt that's going to occur. So now we have to look elsewhere. Let's think outside of the APAC region because there's probably no teams left over in that region that would get him. The NYXL, they're full of DPS. The Valiant, you know, they're Chinese. The Fusion don't really need him. The Dynasty, I mean, they could pick him up, but it wouldn't really make any sense. All the teams in APAC that are left besides the Charge just don't really make sense. So that got me thinking, what about teams in the West? Well, I would say a majority of the teams probably don't require his services because they're already pretty loaded at DPS, but there are a few teams that would probably benefit, like the Boston Uprising, for example. I think that could be a really good fit. No offense to I'm37 or Valentine, I think they're both pretty good, but that's all the Boston Uprising are really working with. Yeah, they technically have color hacks, but they're not going to use him. Why would they? They're already working on like this mostly full Korean lineup, and GodsB would fit in really well, and it could come off the bench, maybe on certain maps, maybe like a double hit scan situation, they can run him and I'm37, or maybe there are some maps that he's just better than I'm37 at, you know? This could be a really solid rotational fit. Or perhaps he could just be better than I'm37 and win the starting job altogether. I think there's a lot of possibilities with a team with Boston. It's all about whether they're interested or not at this point. Boston are pretty funny with signing players and having a somewhat large roster, I feel like, so I'm not getting my hopes up, but this is definitely, again, a place I could see him going. It's a good destination. If GodsB is looking for playtime, Boston is probably the best place he could go to. I've seen some people say like Gladiators, let's say, but it doesn't really seem right. I mean, they have Bird Ring, they have Kevster. Why would they ever really need to play GodsB? So I don't really see that happening. Florida, they only have 3 DPS players, but they have BQB and Yaki, so it's hard to see GodsB getting playtime there. It's just weird. I feel like in most cases, GodsB would be a situational DPS, and clearly that is not what he wants because he knows he's more than talented enough to be a starter or like a key contributor off the bench. I would say maybe like Paris Eternal, but obviously that's not going to happen. They're fully European. I doubt they'd want to get a Korean player. It just doesn't really seem like the type of thing they do this year. Maybe you could go to like the Vancouver Titans. You could definitely get the starting nod over both Lynxer and Dalton, but the Titans, I don't know. I feel like they want to keep this minimal type of lineup going on where they don't have a lot of players on their team. They don't really have the money to get him most likely, so I don't know. GodsB's options are pretty slim. I guess maybe now that I'm thinking about it, the Toronto Defiant could become an option one day once Aspire is off of that 30-day contract, assuming that the Defiant don't bring him back. But they do already have Logix and Hisu on the team, so it doesn't really seem likely he'd go there either. It's just, I don't know. I want GodsB to succeed. I want him to join a new team, but there just aren't a lot of options. The situation is looking grim if he wants to be a key contributor of any kind. But if GodsB decides not to be picky with the teams that he could join, well, that opens up the doors for some of those unrealistic teams we just talked about, like the Mayhem or the Gladiators, you know, where it's like, we don't really need him, but he's talented, so why not sign him? I could see a situation like that playing out if GodsB decides to not be picky. But again, if he wasn't going to be picky, I doubt he would have left the spark to begin with, you know? He wants to play. You could tell he's a true competitor. He doesn't want to just get paid to do this. He wants to play and prove himself and have fun out there. There's a chance he may just have to bide his time in contenders for now. I really don't know what the deal is. Again, I think he's more than talented enough to still be in the league. It's just a matter of who's interested at this point and where he is willing to sign. I'm sure we'll get some news on this guy very soon, and if he joins a new team, you already know the deal. I'll be reporting on it as soon as I can. But that's basically going to do it for this video. How are you feeling about GodsB leaving the Spark? Are you sad? Are you excited about him getting new opportunities? Let me know down in the comments below. If you enjoyed this quick news video, make sure to give this video a like and subscribe if you want to keep up to date with all things Overwatch League news related. And until next time, this is ATP, signing out. Peace.